Should not vaccinating your children be illegal? A research presentation by Christos Constantino. The atrocities of child illness. There are many dangers of pathogens affecting children that have different strains, and they tend to evolve all the time. And it's hard for us to pin down an exact way to defeat these pathogens because of the way they mutate, such that we can never really make a cure that's everlasting. We need to keep improving the cure, because when we administer a cure, the disease will oftentimes mutate around that cure. So we have to find another way to defeat the disease. Children not often, but always have a barely developed immune system, and it depends from culture to culture, ethnicity to ethnicity, but typically every baby is unable to survive a certain threat to their health, like measles or smallpox. They won't survive that, especially without modern medicine. In the past, they would never have any chance of surviving it. But even if you could have a miracle with modern medicine, it's very unlikely and very unsafe to do so. The mortality rate is higher than any other age of human beings when infected. There's no other group of human beings age-wise that is more vulnerable to diseases and pathogens than babies. Even an old man with barely any life left in him has a better chance of surviving measles than a baby does, because of just the pure lack of T-bodies that the old person has, that the baby has no time spent during their life acquiring. The availability of vaccines since 1796 has helped us fight the atrocities of child illness, and inoculation was the first popping up of this. It was administering an infected material to an uninfected person to cause a less dangerous set of symptoms that, once passed, provided a cure and a protection from the disease. Opposition to the cure for a silent killer. Most fear was based on religious notions or gut feelings that were placed in the belief of crowd versus science, or God versus science, and that people had a stern belief in what they understood, which was the Bible, but not in what they didn't understand. They were afraid of science and vaccinations because what they didn't understand scared them, and these people had no idea what these things were. They didn't understand what it was doing, and how it was protecting these people. Oftentimes, people tended to have faith and believe in a reverend rather than an MD, because why would you trust something that has just now started to introduce itself? Why would you listen to an MD or a PhD when the reverend has baptized you and kept you alive all your life? People would never throw away their faith for a cure that they have no clue how it works. They don't have faith in these sort of things. Any evidence of an infection after administration of a vaccine showed false proof that the people took as a way to attack vaccinations early in their stages of development. Ironically, this is very similar to children with suffering from child illness as well. They aren't given the chance to survive. People tended to attack these in sort of mobs and play in giant groups, attacking vaccines and attacking MDs and PhDs for trying to advance these cures, and they would label them heretics. So there would be such few participation from the people to help with these vaccinations, because they're afraid of crowd mob mentality, of the heretics they would be labeled as. Even the images they put, the propaganda, compulsory vaccination, and the result, they treated it like an execution method, like it was lethal injection. They said vaccination a curse and a menace to personal liberty. They took it so seriously, they thought that it was an actual problem that was denying them of unalienable rights instead of keeping these people alive, because they saw symptoms that are normal, they're downgraded, and a vaccine will never be present, or a vaccine will always have symptoms, less dangerous of course, but it will always be present to show that the vaccine is working its course and building you a resistance to the pathogen. In America especially, recently we've had the anti-vaccination movement that has resurged, and by God is it one of the worst things that has plagued our society. A recent outbreak in America of measles, after being declared extinct for 14 years, has showed itself in Washington and is sadly one of the most devastating ways to see a medical breakthrough be reversed because of a close-knit community. And the fear of vaccines comes from this disgusting claim that a celebrity made, blaming her son's autism on vaccines, as if autism was actually something that terrible and that terrifying. It's a disease, yes, but it can be accepted and it can be helped. The idea of these spread like wildfire and led to an unfortunate resurgence of the anti-vaccination movement, that people believe they know more than an MD because of the posts they see on the internet. The worst, by far, effect is the older diseases once thought to have been defeated have been able to resurrect and resurface, bringing chaos to a close-knit community. Conclusion: many vaccines have been created to help end the epidemic that was diseases like measles. Anti-vaccination movements have dominated the actual research in the past, but died down with the improvement of modern technology and newer movements starting to allow the resurrection of diseases, especially in tightly knit communities, allowing easier ways to spread the pathogen. My three questions: what were the earliest attempts at vaccinations? The 10th century BC, inoculation was shown to be performed in places like China. What was the after effect of the recent United States measles outbreak? Sadly, one child died as a result of the measles outbreak. A lot of people were harmed, and it's a devastating thing to see when we have the cure. How do you feel about legislation mandating vaccinations? I believe we should have very, very strict vaccination legislation, because I don't believe any human has the right to decide whether a child, whether it be their child or another's, should live or die based on their beliefs. If the vaccines are shown to prove a cure, then there should be no reason they shouldn't be receiving those vaccines. That ends my presentation. Thank you. Should not vaccinating